Wonderful. Well, I'm seeing the room quickly fill up. And again, good afternoon and good morning for those of us joining on the West Coast. My name is Julie Chavez Rodriguez, for those of you that I don't know, and I'm the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs here at the White House. And we're so excited to be able to welcome leaders from governor's offices and state agencies charged with administering the utility and emergency rental assistance. Thank you all so much for your time and expertise in joining us to discuss ways in which we can effectively deploy the unprecedented resources from the American Rescue Plan to mitigate the impact of rising home heating costs this winter for hard-pressed families. We have a great lineup for you all today and leaders that are joining us from both the administration and outside of the administration, including Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm and Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra. We'll also hear from Governors Whitmer of Michigan, Governor Lamont from Connecticut, Governor Mills from Maine, and Governor Walz of Minnesota. But before we dig in, I want to take a moment to really acknowledge the historic week that we're in right now. On Monday, President Biden signed the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and it will deliver for working class and middle class families. This law is instrumental for state governments, from roads and bridges to climate resilience, to water infrastructure and eradicating lead pipes, and will continue to further strengthen our partnership that we've developed over the course of the last 10 months with states and cities to deliver for the American people. At the same time, the House is continuing to advance the President's Build Back Better framework and act, which lowers costs, creates jobs, and cuts taxes, while continuing to tackle the climate crisis and growing the American economy from the middle out. So I'm honored to be able to work with so many of you all, state leaders, local leaders across the country, to ensure that we are really addressing the most pressing needs of our communities. It's all of you and your staff who has been key partners in ensuring that we are implementing effectively and efficiently across so many different federal programs. And in many ways, I really see my job as figuring out how to make your jobs a little bit easier so that you can navigate our agencies and our departments in the most effective way. So thank you all again for this unprecedented partnership and opportunity to continue this work. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to a dear friend, a tremendous partner of ours here in the White House, Gene Sperling, Senior Advisor to the President and American Rescue Plan Coordinator. Gene, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. I say this every time, but there's just never been a stronger, more talented, effective head of a White House intergovernmental than Julie Rodriguez. We're so happy, and I could not do my job even adequately if she did, and her partners like Luke McGowan did not do their job so darn well. So I really want to thank all the state and local officials who've joined us. I think you can see by the fact that you have Julie, Secretary Becerra, Secretary Granholm, other experts like Jacob Liebenluft, Chief Recovery Officer, Treasury, and Dr. Laniqua Howard, who runs the LIHEAP program, that we take this very seriously. And we're really honored to have 4 governors who we really asked to speak today because we thought and know that they actually exhibit and demonstrate some of the best practices that we want to promote. So look, we all know that millions of families will face higher heating costs this winter. We understand that. We're convening today because we also know that due to the American Rescue Plan, we have unprecedented resources to address these higher winter heating costs, and we want to ensure unprecedented commitment to making sure those dollars reach as many hard-pressed families as possible in a timely way. And that means that we all of us need to ensure we're at the top of our game, planning early, expediting assistance whenever possible, coordinating among the different programs that can help families, renters, and homeowners, and coordinating with utilities and other energy providers as well. I want to take I know many of you know this, but for those who are tuning in on this issue, perhaps for the first time from outside, I mean, the resources truly are unprecedented. LIHEAP, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, is more than doubled due to the American Rescue Plan. On top of the normal 3.3 billion provided annually, the American Rescue Plan has added an additional 4.5 billion. That means that it's more than double at $7.8 billion, which will be the most ever, and we hope will mean that the most hard-pressed families ever will be receiving assistance this winter. Second, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which is administered out of Treasury, which of course is known most for helping families pay their arrears on rent, but has already provided hundreds of thousands of families with either arrears or prospective payments on utility payments, and has the potential to do more during this winter. Finally, the state and local American Rescue Plan can and has been used to deploy funds for hard-pressed families from California to Louisville. We have been consulting, offering technical assistance. We appreciate how many of the people on this call have been part of webinars, consultations with Treasury, with Secretary Becerra's team, and the White House, and has helped us crystallize and develop many of the best practices that we want to promote. And that, I think, means asking all states to prepare early with strong and effective winter plans, quick and automatic distribution of benefits when possible, expanded outreach to newly eligible families, and coordination. This will be the first time ever people have had to coordinate the LIHEAP assistance with the emergency rental assistance. And we've seen many states and cities rise to that occasion. It means asking the providers of emergency rental assistance to use their best practices in considering forward assistance for utilities for the vulnerable families during these winter months, expediting assistance through a collaboration with nonprofits, with utility providers. And as Jacob will talk about, understanding that higher energy costs can make someone eligible for the hardship necessary for the emergency rental assistance program. We also know that there are other ways that the American Rescue Plan is helping, that according to the Census Pulse survey, 1/3 of families getting the child tax credit are using it for utility bills. We've seen tribal governments take advantage of the Housing Assistance Fund to deal with utilities. And we also put out, as we prepared for this convening, a special challenge to utilities and energy providers to do their part, to work as much as possible with state and local governments, and that to the degree that they are receiving funds, that they would, one, help identify eligible recipients, two, directly screen and notify potentially eligible recipients, three, expedite assistance to vulnerable households, four, facilitate assistance with delivered fuel customers, and lastly, to commit to no shutoffs for customers who are in the process of applying for financial hardship assistance. I'll be honest, when we put that out, we put it out as an aspiration. So we've been very pleased in the last few days, 7 major utility companies, including DTE Energy, Eversource, Green Mountain Power, National Grid, Northwestern Energy, Portland General Electric, and Vermont Gas, as well as the Delivered Fuel Trade Association, NEFI, have all answered this call so far to commit to these best practices. And we appreciate that, and we'll address that at the end of this program. You know, again, the governors that you will hear later were invited because they have pioneered best practices that can help states and localities. And as the coordinator of the American Rescue Plan, this is what I constantly hear from state and localities. Can you tell us what our peers are doing that you think works best? This is an effort to make sure that you can hear directly from 4 of the governors who are executing these type of policies. So we're very, very pleased and happy that all of you have become part of this convening. But before we get to the governors, I want you to hear in a little bit more detail about the programs from some of our leaders, including Secretary Granholm and Secretary Becerra. So with that, I want to now pass the baton to my fellow Michigander, Secretary Jennifer Granholm. I have known her and watched her rise for many, many years, but I was particularly proud that when I was in the Obama administration, I got to work with her, and I can't even tell you how moved and impressed I am even today at just the passion, the commitment, and the effectiveness that she exhibited as governor in working with the Obama administration to save the auto industry. I mean, she is our leader on energy issues, and she, beyond her help with the American Rescue Plan, will be playing perhaps the most critical leadership role in implementing the bipartisan infrastructure's long-term efforts, including weatherization, which I think she'll speak about. And I guess for me, just so appropriate that the woman as governor who helped save the American auto industry will also be now in a position to take it to its next more electric and more carbon neutral and more sustainable future. So with that, let me hand over the floor to Secretary Granholm.
Oh, thank you, Jean. You are such a good egg. Really, just so everybody knows, I mean, Jean Sperling inside the White House, being the voice of workers who were losing their jobs through no fault of their own when the auto industry was going bankrupt and we had cascading unemployment. You know, it was Jean inside there, shaking everybody, saying, do you know what this means for real people on the ground? And it was that recognition that I think helped to bring the funding to save the auto industry across the line. So thank you, Jean. So glad to be on with you. So glad to be on with Javier Becerra and HHS's work in this, and Treasury's as well. So, this speaks about the importance of federal and state partnership, right? So let me get to it. So I'm really glad to be part of this event because it really shows how proactive this administration is about protecting our most vulnerable communities through this whole of government approach. Because, from the first day in office, President Biden made it clear he was going to do everything in his power to ease burdens, right? And to lift expenses from people and create opportunities for families. It's why I was so excited to join his cabinet, and I know others feel the same. And so the top of mind that the president has at his, the first thing he thinks about when he gets up, the last thing he thinks about when he goes to bed, is to make sure that everybody, that we're growing this economy from the bottom up and the middle out, and that everybody has access to an affordable lifestyle. And that, by the way, includes energy, affordable energy at home and at the gas pump as well. The Energy Information Administration, which is inside the Department of Energy, but it's independent, it predicts that we are going to turn the corner in early 2022 in terms of pricing at the pump. But, projecting energy prices is more of an art than a science. And we have to still fight this every single step of the way because people are hurting right now. And, the gas prices and home heating prices are higher than we want to see. So the administration recognizes who it hurts the most. It's families below the federal poverty line who already experience high energy costs, up to 30% of their income to going toward energy, energy heating their homes or fueling their cars. So any price increase causes an undue strain. So, let's be clear, no president controls the price of gasoline. It's obviously on a global market. What we're seeing right now, though, is a global mismatch of supply and demand. Oil production is lagging behind as the rest of the economy is roaring back to life after last year's shutdown. And, honestly, despite churning out huge profits in the past quarter, higher profits than before COVID, major fossil energy companies have really prioritized, and maybe Wall Street is demanding this, that they pay out their shareholders and do shareholder buybacks, share buybacks over in front of the line of boosting production, in front of rehiring workers. So just as an example, at the height of the pandemic, more than 200,000 oil and gas workers had lost their jobs. Today, as we have emerged, there's still 151,000 fewer jobs in oil and gas than there were in March of 2020, before the pandemic started really flaring. So what's going on there? In the meantime, OPEC did not heed or hear President Biden's call earlier this month to increase global oil production. So the president has been calling for an increase in supply so that we can address this issue at the pump and lower prices. You know, we're not taking our eye off the market and, you know, what's behind these high prices. And despite, you know, this situation though, there are things that the federal government can do to ease pressure on American families from home heating bills and energy costs. The good news is we are already doing them. As Jean said, there's the $4.5 billion from the American Rescue Plan for LIHEAP. There's the $350 billion for emergency rental assistance that states and tribes and local governments can use in, you know, in the recovery funds from the American Rescue Plan. At the Department of Energy, we are doing home retrofits to improve energy efficiency, to install heat pumps and other energy saving devices, which will all lighten the strain on American pocketbooks. Just last week, I toured the millionth home that we have retrofitted. You know, all told, DOE has saved American families about $7.7 billion while creating jobs. We're getting an additional $3.5 billion for the weatherization assistance program, as Jean mentioned, through the bipartisan infrastructure law. That's going to help so many more Americans save money on their energy bills. Obviously, that's going to be passed through to y'all in the states, and we want to make sure that gets out the door as soon as possible. But the bottom line is that this president and this administration are looking at every single tool to shield American families from the impact of rising energy prices. And we're working through an energy transition. And we've got to start by adding energy. And the reality is we have to take some time to get off of oil and gas. We recognize this. This is a transition. But in the meantime, we have to meet the immediate need for affordable energy and protect families from pain at the pump. We have a short-term strategy, help people now, long-term strategy, let's build out this clean energy future so we don't have to rely upon volatile fossil fuels and we can create jobs in clean energy. You know, we've got to stop relying on one source of energy that's controlled by, you know, geopolitical adversaries who may be creating choke points for energy access. You know, that reliance makes our nation vulnerable. It hurts American people, especially low income families. So we've got to diversify our energy. That's why President Biden's vision of building out clean sources like solar and wind and geothermal and advanced nuclear and hydrogen, it's the best strategy to protect American consumers from price shocks. And the bipartisan infrastructure law is going to expand and upgrade the electric grid so we can integrate more clean energy. It's going to invest over $21 billion in demonstration projects for emerging energy technologies that are going to put people to work. But what's really going to create a clean and secure and resilient, you know, energy and free from these price shocks is the next bill, which is President Biden's Build Back Better agenda, which is going to create clean energy tax credits and rebates so that Americans can save an estimated $9 billion per year in energy costs, historic investments in manufacturing and supply chains, and put people to work in making the technologies like wind and solar and EVs here at home. So economists say that these two bills are going to ease inflationary pressures. It's going to grow our economy and create about 1.5 million jobs every single year. So bottom line is we are laser focused on getting that second bill over the finish line. It's going to be the biggest thing that America has ever done to address the climate crisis and to put us on track long-term for making sure that we are not reliant upon volatility of fossil fuels or folks who don't have our interests at heart or corporations who are not spending to increase supply. DOE and the entire Biden administration are committed to getting that done and to making sure that our clean transition makes energy more affordable and more accessible for every American. And we stand ready to work with utilities and states and tribes and local governments and NGOs to get every available resource to the people who need it most. So let us do this. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it back to Jean.
Thank you so much, Secretary Granholm. We really appreciate you being here and being part of this and your leadership. I now want to introduce Secretary Becerra. As you've seen, both Julie and I and Secretary Granholm, we all like to talk about the $7.8 billion in LIHEAP, the historic amount that the American Rescue Plan has given us, really as a thoughtful precaution to the possibility that this we would have this need for millions of families this winter. But as much as all of us want to promote it, there's one person and one person only who's actually in charge of distributing it, and that is our Secretary Becerra from HHS. First, I want to just thank you that even so far, it's such an excellent team you have. They've had just great partners with us at the American Rescue Plan implementation team, particularly in this last month or so when we've been particularly focusing in on this issue. I always, when I'm starting meetings, tell people you might have worked with me when I was National Economic Council Director for President Obama. And then I say, if you're really old, you might have worked with me when I was National Economic Council Director for President Clinton. Well, Secretary Becerra is that old. But it's a good thing because I got to work with him when he was the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and he was one of the most effective members of Congress I've ever worked for. He was the driving force, I would say, behind the Clinton administration coming forward with the Hispanic Education Action Plan, and was a partner in developing and implementing that. And as someone whose spouse works in California, I've been able to watch him now as Attorney General of California for so many years and his effectiveness. And now he's come back to this really easy, simple job where you only have to deal with a brand new childcare, hopefully a brand new childcare program when Build Back Better passes, immigration, and yes, home heating costs. So with that, I'm really appreciate your laser-like focus on this issue, how terrific your team's been in working with us, and want to turn the floor over to you, Secretary Becerra.
Well, Gene, thank you very much to you, Julie, the White House team, for everything you're doing, to Jacob Liebenluft at Treasury, all the work that he's been doing. It's great to be part of this team. Can I just mention someone who's instrumental in our office, Dr. Laniqua Howard, who is the leader of our operations at the Office of Community Services. It's her responsibility to make sure we do this stuff right. And so I want to make sure we recognize Dr. Howard. And great to be with our Secretary of Energy, a force of nature in her own right. Secretary Granholm has been charging away all this time, and we're looking forward to working closely together with the Department of Energy, with White House, and all of our folks at the cabinet who really want to take this on. And of course, I've got to send a big shout out to our governors, Governors Mills, Whitmer, Walz, and Lamont, who are joining today, and just the tremendous work that they've been doing and the great partnership that we need to continue forward. About 40 years ago, this summer, Congress took action to help families meet their energy needs. We know that result of that action today is LIHEAP, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. It has helped millions of people who are low income since. It helps them take care of their home heating bills during the winter. It helps them take care of cooling bills in the summer. It's hard to overstate the impact the program has had. It is active in all 50 states. It is active in the District of Columbia, all the territories, and in approximately 150 Native American tribe and tribal organizations. Each year, it helps Americans in every corner of the country. Each year, it saves lives. Each year, it continues to be what people count on. And it goes to the core of HHS's mission, enhancing the health and well-being of all Americans. This funding that we're talking about today also helps advance the President's commitment to racial equity. As we know that communities of color often face systemic disadvantages when it comes to energy costs. During the COVID-19 pandemic, LIHEAP was especially helpful in serving so many millions of families that were struggling with their utility bills. It was a lifeline. It helped so many vulnerable households with very young children, or folks with disabilities, or older Americans. This is especially important as we head into this winter, with forecasts that the cost for energy will be higher for most Americans. As families gather for the holiday season, we at HHS, and I know in the Biden administration writ large, we are focused. We are ready to ensure energy security for communities across this country. We also recognize that it's the American Rescue Plan that made so much of this possible. The $4.5 billion that it provided to expand LIHEAP, more than double the normal annual funding, as well as the billions in state, local, and other relief funds that can be used to help cover utility bills. That, when you put it on top of the $3.37 billion that were appropriated by Congress to help, it is life-saving, as I said before. And we want to make it game-changing as well. So what does that mean for families? It means we're going to be able to serve more families in more homes than ever before. But we need your help to get there. That's why at HHS, we're working closely with grantees to provide proper training and technical assistance. Our Office of Community Services is partnering with the White House, Treasury Department to ensure we make the most with the historic level of funding that we got from AARP. Our message to LIHEAP directors is simple. Make sure you have a plan for this winter. Work together, coordinate with energy rental assistance counterparts that you have to ensure households can get benefits from both programs, and make it easy for families to get the support they need. Because this winter, no one should have to choose between heat and food. No one should have to choose between heat and medicine. In the words of one of the LIHEAP recipients in this country, when I've been in need, LIHEAP has been there to help me out. Pretty basic. Thanks to the leadership of President Biden, LIHEAP is going to be there again this winter, stronger than ever, to help millions of American families. So thank you for all the work you do to administer these programs. We could not do this without you. We look forward to the partnership. It's time now to turn it back to Gene. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary. So appreciated. And with that now, I will introduce Jacob Liebenluft, who is the Chief Recovery Officer for the American Rescue Plans at the Department of Treasury. And later, after the governors speak, Dr. Laniqua Howard will speak as well and talk about the really important issue that Secretary Becerra mentioned, which is that we recognize this is the first time many of you have had to coordinate your policies with the emergency rental assistance, which is just for renters, and the LIHEAP program, which obviously can be for homeowners as well. And so she will speak on that later, but we also really want to make clear, and I'm sure she'll stress that we understand this is a first time coordination, and whatever we can do to work together to provide more technical assistance or just more webinars or more Q&A with you, please let us know. We want to do everything we can to help, and we want to be able to, in more detailed ways than we will be able to today, make sure we're sharing the rules, the regulations, but also the best practices that many of your peers may be doing. So with that, let me turn it over to my very, very good friend and one of the people with one of the most important jobs in the U.S. government now, as a very large part of the American Rescue Plan falls on the Treasury Department and the Recovery Office, which Jacob has both created and now leads. Jacob?
Well, thank you so much, Gene, for the introduction. It's an honor to join Secretary Granholm and Secretary Becerra, who, along with their teams, have been such partners to us at Treasury, and to join Governors Whitmer, Mills, Lamont, and Walz, who are taking leadership at the state level across the country as we recover from the COVID-19 crisis. And I want to just take a moment to thank the program administrators who have joined us today, who I know are working so hard every day under the challenging constraints of an unprecedented pandemic to make sure people in their communities have access to the programs we're discussing. You all have been such great partners to us, and we look forward to continuing to work together. At Treasury, as Gene mentioned, we are implementing a range of American Rescue Plan recovery programs designed to help families respond to the challenges they are facing as a result of the pandemic. And in doing so, we're especially focused on providing state, local, and tribal grantees with the flexibility and the guidance to meet emerging needs, including the increase in home heating costs we expect to see this winter. Today, I want to focus in particular on one of the initiatives that Treasury is implementing, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and on Treasury's ongoing work to help grantees prepare to provide utility assistance to households in need. For too many Americans, housing insecurity is directly connected to energy costs, as families fear being unable to pay both their heating costs and for basic expenses like housing. COVID-19 has exacerbated this existing crisis. The Emergency Rental Assistance Program provides assistance to eligible households for both rental and utility debts and prospective payments. And importantly, this will be the first winter that the Emergency Rental Assistance Program will be widely available to supplement the work that programs like LIHEAP are doing to ensure that renters can stay in their homes. The program can provide up to 18 months of rental and utility assistance to households, durable support that can be a lifeline for many families struggling to make ends meet. The program is also available to some individuals who may not be able to get assistance from other federal programs, such as LIHEAP, due to ERA's somewhat higher income threshold. And Dr. Howard will talk more about the coordination between HHS and Treasury to ensure that our respective grantees are working closely together to deliver assistance. Now, ERA has already made a difference in helping families with their utility costs. Between January and June of this year, the program made well over 200,000 payments to support households with utility arrears and over 140,000 prospective utility payments. And the pace has significantly increased in the months since then. Today, however, Treasury is taking steps to further clarify how emergency rental assistance can help serve those who will experience significant increases in home heating costs this winter. First, the ERA statute requires income-eligible renters to have experienced a significant financial hardship due to the COVID-19 pandemic and to demonstrate that they are at risk of housing instability. Today, Treasury confirmed that elevated energy costs can be a form of COVID-19 related hardship that can put distressed renters at risk of housing instability, qualifying income-eligible households for the ERA program. We also updated our sample forms for grantees to encourage them to prompt eligible households to self-attest to these eligibility criteria based on significant increases in their winter home heating costs. We are updating the ERA website with a range of promising practices that we have seen in states, some of whose leaders have joined us today, related to utility assistance, along with best practices for collaborating with LIHEAP grantees based on our coordination with ACF, including developing data sharing, linked application, or referral policies between the two programs to help match applicants to the most appropriate resources, as well as pursuing a collaborative review of eligibility requirements, the types of assistance offered, and assistance benefit levels between local programs, and working together on categorical eligibility, which can support faster income determination, reduce paperwork burden, and expedite the eligibility process. We're also highlighting grantees that have engaged in novel and creative practices to provide utility support that will help renters through the winter months. For example, as in Governor Lamont's state of Connecticut, which has taken an innovative approach in the Emergency Rental Assistance Program to data sharing with utility companies to identify eligible renters and prompt them to sign up for utility assistance. Finally, we are, of course, continuing our efforts to partner with other federal agencies, including Secretary Becerra's team at HHS and Secretary Granholm's team at the Department of Energy, to ensure that we are supporting a comprehensive approach to this issue. I want to note that this important work at Treasury goes beyond emergency rental assistance. We are also prioritizing emerging needs around heating costs in other recovery programs. For example, in our state and local fiscal relief program, grantees like Louisville, Kentucky are dedicating funds which have a variety of flexible uses towards providing utility assistance. As part of our implementation of the Homeowner Assistance Fund, we are encouraging state grantees to include utility assistance for homeowners who may struggle to be able to meet costs this winter. And thanks to the American Rescue Plan, nearly a third of the families with more than 61 million children who received expanded monthly child tax credit payments have used those payments to pay for utilities between July and September of this year. Of course, this is still just the beginning of our work. Our team, including Vikram Viswanathan, a senior leader on our housing team who is with us but off screen with me today, stands ready to work with all of you to ensure that you're able to use your programs to respond to the needs that people are facing in communities across the country. We look forward to working with you and our grantees to continue to provide tangible support to meet this need in the winter months and to work on emerging challenges as they arise in our efforts to create a strong and equitable recovery. Thanks so much, and I'll turn it back to you, Gene.
Thank you, Jacob. And I really appreciate the detail and the help and encourage people to go to the Treasury website and to look at the best practices. As Jacob said, there are other programs, including the Housing Assistance Fund that Treasury is using, which the Ho-Chunk Nation in Wisconsin is using $3 million to help with heating costs, including utility payments, natural gas, propane, and wood. And with that, I want to turn over to the section of our program where we've asked 4 different governors to speak about what we found to be best practices that we thought would be important to talk about. I would love to give a bigger introduction to Governor Whitmer, the governor from my home state of Michigan. But Governor Whitmer, I know, has a tight schedule. So I just want to say that every single governor that we invited here, we invited because in our work with HHS and Treasury, we felt they were leading best practices, and we were very impressed. And one of the first places was certainly Michigan. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Governor.
Great. Hi, Gene. Thank you. Today, we're here to discuss our ongoing efforts to lower costs for families in Michigan and across the United States. Thanks to the American Rescue Plan, we've got a historic influx of resources to help families keep the heat on this winter. Right now, we have double the normal funding for LIHEAP. Because of the American Rescue Plan, every family that needs assistance with heating bills this winter can get the help they need to stay warm and to stay safe. We're also working to make homes more efficient, safer, and cheaper. In Michigan, we know how critical heating is, especially with winter just a few weeks around the corner and temperatures already starting to drop below freezing. I'm grateful to our federal partners, and I'm looking forward to working with local governments, our tribal nations, and our utilities to get people the help that they need. During fiscal year 2020, Michigan invested over $17 million from the CARES Act through the LIHEAP Direct Support Program. This helped deliver assistance to 41,000 homes. Now, thanks to the funding from the American Rescue Plan, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, or MDHHS, will be allocating over $50 million to the program. Now, I want to highlight some of our incredible state agencies and departments in Michigan and what they're doing to help families keep the heat on. And I want to highlight 3 specifically. First, our LIHEAP Direct Support Program is a unique and innovative program built on close collaboration with 4 of our regulated energy providers. LIHEAP Direct Support offers assistance to households who are behind on their bills, households that receive SNAP or TANF or SSI benefits. They don't even have to put in an application. We anticipate having multiple additional rounds of LIHEAP Direct Support Program, with the first round taking place next month. Second, customers who have submitted an application for the general LIHEAP program, which is separate from the Direct Support Program, are protected against shutoffs in Michigan while their application is pending. This is possible because of the state's effective partnership with 3 of Michigan's largest energy providers, Consumers Energy, DTE Energy, and SunCo. Families who are behind on their bills or are facing disconnection will have a hold placed on their account the moment they submit their electronic application for LIHEAP through our health department's online portal called Michigan Bridges, MI Bridges. Without this critical partnership, families waiting for their application to be processed could get their power turned off, which is truly dangerous in a Michigan winter. And third, Michigan's two largest energy providers, Consumers and DTE, offer caseworkers from the state health department and other nonprofits back-end access to their customer account portal. So with this access to utility portal systems, our caseworkers can expedite applications for emergency heating and energy assistance without requiring households to submit a copy of their most recent bill. Instead, caseworkers can access the household information they need to determine who is eligible for assistance, service restoration, or crisis intervention. So all three of these policies and procedures cut red tape and help families get the help they need right now. So Michigan's got more, we have more to offer than just these approaches, but I wanted to highlight these in particular, and some of the work that our departments and agencies are doing in partnership with our utility providers. As part of the ARP, the Biden-Harris administration has provided $4.5 billion to expand LIHEAP, more than doubling the normal funding. They've also delivered billions in energy rental assistance, state and local relief funds, and other resources that can be used to help families pay utility bills, keep the heat on, and prevent housing instability among working and middle-class families this winter. The administration is committed to working with states and localities and tribes to plan early and to coordinate across programs to get relief to those who need it the most. And in Michigan, we're proud of the work we've done on energy assistance, and we believe we have some lessons learned that other states can learn from, but also we're always eager to learn from our partners and our colleagues across the country. I'm grateful to every state caseworker, utility employee, and official working behind the scenes to help families stay safe and warm this winter. Together, we can help each other through the winter and usher in a new era of prosperity for our families and communities. Thanks, Jean.
Governor, thanks so much. And thanks for mentioning those specific things. If you look on our best practices and you look at our challenge to utilities, the protecting shutoffs once households applied, you know, your example definitely inspired us to make that part of the utility challenge and to focus on the automatic payment and work with utilities as our best practices. So I really appreciate you making the time and highlighting those particular best practices. So thank you so much. With that, I've also, fortunately, and very recently in person, been able to talk with the governor of Maine, Governor Mills. There's so many things we thought Maine was doing that were best practices, from getting LIHEAP benefits to families quickly ahead of the winter, but also implementing a lot of the best practices that have to do with delivered fuel providers, which we know is essential in Maine. And also that Maine is one of the states that really has looked broadly at the different forms of help and is using 25 million for the type of weatherization energy efficiency that, if you talk to the governor, she is always going to mention right at the start in terms of her vision. So with that, thank you so much, Governor Mills, for being willing to come and discuss some of those things with us and everybody on this call.
Thank you, Jean, and hello from Maine. We're not terribly cold today, but listen, it's very, very hard to top Michigan. It's very hard to best my good friend Gretchen Whitmer and all that they're doing in Michigan. But let me just say, we're very grateful to the administration in Washington for all the help you've given us so far to keep people warm in Maine over this winter, the coming winter. Last night, you know, thousands of people in Maine turned up their thermostats to keep warm as this weather gets colder and colder. For nearly 60% of Maine homeowners, that means that their oil furnace is firing up, and at an average cost right now of $3.16 for fuel oil a gallon, Maine families are spending millions of dollars on fossil fuels that could well instead be paying for groceries, medicines, school supplies. The sad fact is Maine is the most heating oil dependent state in the country. We spend more than $4 billion a year that goes right out the door to out-of-state fossil fuel companies on heating, transportation, and electricity generation, mostly gas-fired. So the high cost of energy and electricity, a direct result of our reliance on fossil fuels, is impacting our families, while carbon emissions in our atmosphere threaten our health and our environment. This is something we can and will change with help from the Biden administration. And that is why I'm so proud that our state of Maine is utilizing funds from the American Rescue Plan, funds to weatherize homes, to reduce our reliance on harmful fossil fuels and cut energy costs. Additionally, other American Rescue Plan funds targeted to our state's LIHEAP program on top of our regular allocation means that we hope to have all the resources necessary to keep every eligible Maine family warm this winter. Thank you for that. With $25 million in federal funds from the American Rescue Plan, we're expanding rebates to 3,500 low to moderate income households in Maine to weatherize and to weather strip doors and windows, to insulate attics and basements, to keep homes warm and save money on heating costs. Weatherization alone can save our families hundreds of dollars each heating season. And with the rise in oil and gas prices we're seeing right now, that could not be more important or more timely. In addition to the $25 million for home weatherization, we're creating a clean energy partnership backed by $5.5 million in other American Rescue Plan funds to create apprenticeship programs all in the clean energy sector. We have more than 1,500 energy efficiency companies in Maine, a growing number every year, including weatherization companies that are looking to hire people right now. By training people to enter our ever-widening, ever-expanding clean energy sector, we'll create green-collar jobs and strengthen our economy. We'll do the heavy lifting needed to weatherize Maine homes with that workforce. Our clean energy partnership will bring together all players, state agencies, unions, businesses, schools, community colleges, universities, training providers, and others to double our clean energy workforce to 30,000 people in Maine by 2030. This more than $30 million investment, backed again by the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, to cut energy costs for Maine families, reduce carbon emissions, and strengthen our clean energy workforce could not come at a better time. A new report from the United States Energy Information Agency estimates the costs for nearly all home heating methods will be going up this winter, for reasons related, of course, to the pandemic and to the worldwide economy, as discussed by Secretary Granholm earlier. So while we work to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, help is available in the meantime for many people who cannot afford heating oil this winter. In fact, we used $21 million in additional LIHEAP funding from the American Rescue Plan, and we took the proactive step of putting fuel directly into tanks before the cold weather hits, something we hadn't done before. How do we do it? Well, 2 months ago in September, all eligible families who had received heating assistance last winter were automatically credited with a payment that was equal to their total benefit last year through their fuel vendor. Because the Biden administration gave additional funding through the American Rescue Plan, and because we were given it early, we were able to prepare 31,000 Maine families ahead of this winter's heating season. Fuel dealers have told us that having these funds ahead of time means that they can fill tanks now and refill them automatically. So customers won't have to worry about their tanks suddenly going empty or needing an emergency delivery in the dead of night in the middle of a Maine winter. These additional funds also help Maine's elderly more than anybody. In Maine, they're half the folks who receive heating assistance, senior citizens. And now they won't have to venture outside onto the ice or snow or go downstairs into their basements to keep checking their tanks to see if they're almost out of oil. That simple peace of mind is really priceless, that alone. Maine is also using a portion of LIHEAP funding to install high-efficiency heat pumps, reducing people's oil consumption and energy bills this winter. You know, Maine installed a record 28,000 heat pumps last year in 1 year alone, and this funding helped us target income-qualified Maine people for installations. Getting people off of fossil fuel, a high priority. In total, with state and local American Rescue Plan funds and the additional LIHEAP allocations, Maine now has nearly $70 million in federal funding for low-income heating assistance, and our state is working hard to put that money to good use and encourage all eligible Maine people to apply. Well, with the signing of the bipartisan infrastructure bill this week, which I was very privileged to witness, Maine is well poised to make a once-in-a-generation investment in our state, to cut energy costs for Maine families, to reduce carbon emissions, and to strengthen our clean energy workforce, all important steps to reach our goal of carbon neutrality by 2045. I'm so grateful for the efforts of the Biden administration that have made this progress possible, and I look forward to our continued work and partnership to ensure that these kinds of programs benefit all the people of Maine. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. And I mean, really thoughtful, such thoughtful comments on how what you're addressing this winter in this higher cost is so related to your long-term investments in a clean energy and carbon neutral future. And really appreciate you mentioning the connection with what you're doing on the clean energy workforce. And I think by doing that now, you almost know we're going to be pulling you back into further discussions on that particular issue. But I just want to highlight one thing, because I know some people might be thinking they're not dealing with the delivered fuels and the home heating oil, but there's something you said there that we are putting out as a best practice, which is the automatic benefits, the automatic getting funds to people from the year before. That is a best practice and lesson for really any state. And the fact that what you're describing in terms of helping both the providers and the families prepare and the peace of mind, I really hope others will listen to that and think of that as a potential best practice for expediting assistance, whether they're relying on natural gas or heating oil. So thank you so much for emphasizing that. And with that, I will now turn to Governor Lamont. Governor, I will tell you that when our team was out looking for best practices, innovative practices, I think one of the things that generated the most excitement was your efforts in Connecticut, including with the emergency rental assistance, the way you were working with private sector companies and the census on identifying people, their income, the coordination and the efficiency with the utilities. It really stood out. And so we're really happy to have you here to talk about that or whatever other best practices you think would be helpful for the many hundreds of local government officials who are on this call right now. So the floor is yours, Governor Lamont.
Hey, thank you, Gene. And to Janet and Gretchen and Tim, may you have a mild winter. What a difference that would make. I was just thinking, listening to Janet, what a difference a year and a half makes. I mean, a year and a half ago, we were closed down, and you remember the oil tankers were circling. There was no place for them to get rid of their oil, and the price of oil went below zero for a while. Today, we're in an extraordinarily different place. Our schools are open, of course, our businesses are open. Demand for heating, electricity is going up, and that's driving up the costs in a dramatic way. I gotta step back for a second. A special thanks to the American Rescue Plan. It's really allowed us to turn the corner and get back up on our feet. What a difference that makes. We have more and more of our people every month be able to get back to work. I got to say the daycare and the childcare, a big piece of that. I hope that continues in the next bill. The workforce development, enormous. And I just hearing Janet talk, a lot of what we're doing in workforce, a lot of people want to step up, change jobs, get a better job. And energy efficiency is a big piece of where they're trying to go. And when it comes to the utility support, thanks to you, what we've got in terms of support in terms of helping people with electricity, helping people with gas and heating. I've learned one thing. When it came to the vaccinations, it's not simply a matter of build it and they will come. You have to work to get people there. It's a different version of GOTV. It's in that case, it was help get out the vaccine. And we found, yes, you can set up the website, and a lot of smart people get there and they go online. But we also found we had to reach out. We had to make calls. We had to have trusted advocates call you, talk to you, meet you after church and make sure that it was testing or vaccination. We've taken some of that to heart, Gene, when it comes to making sure all of our population, especially on underserved populations, know about the rent relief program, know about the utility relief program, know about LIHEAP, and make sure that they're able to take advantage of that. So the first thing we did on our rent relief, very important. You cannot have people out on the street in the middle of a pandemic. It's not only the right thing to do, it was the public health thing to do, allow people to stay in their homes. Your rent relief program made an enormous difference. And one of the things we did do was if you hadn't paid in a long time, even going back before the pandemic, you had 2 months to work out an agreement with the landlord. And that allowed you to stay in the home, landlords to get paid. So fortunately, people are in their homes. So now you come into late November, you've got the heating and electric bills going through the roof. What can we do about that? Well, not only did we notice, publicize, advertise, TV, social media, we went to that same rent relief program. We found everybody that had applied for rent relief but hadn't applied for utility relief. We realized they were probably one and the same in terms of demographics. So we got a quick 10,000 people who otherwise might not have known about our utility relief program, thanks to your good work. We got them on board. And then we went further than that. We went to our electric utilities, UI and Eversource. And we said, who in these income districts, low income districts, are in arrears when it comes to their utility bills? And we got a name, we got about 20,000 additional names. In there, we started reaching out. I did robocalls just to contact people. We did a blast of emails and the such that gets to some people, but not enough people. I did robocalls in English. Salem Mascaro-Bruno, our amazing Department of Housing Commissioner, called in Spanish. And we got thousands more who otherwise might not have been aware of the incredible opportunities they had to stay in their home, keep the heat on, keep the electricity on. And while we're there, we tried to concentrate the types of benefits we have for people. So whether it was the SNAP program, and made sure at the same time they had access to that. Or we said, by the way, do you know about our energy efficiency program? Hearing what Janet says, there's a real opportunity. We can come in at no cost to you. You'll be able to cut your electric bills and your heating bills by 10, 20, 30, 40%. And this is a good time to do it. So we tried to bundle the types of services we had in a way that made easy access for people coming forward and make sure the money is not sitting on the sidelines, but the money is going to people that really need it. So I want to say when it comes to the American Rescue Plan, it's making a big difference. And everything from childcare to workforce, and now in terms of rent relief and utility relief and LIHEAP, it's an extraordinary difference you're making, allowing people to stay in their homes during a time where people are still really stressed out coming out of COVID. So with that, back to you, Gene, and thanks for your efforts.
Well, thank you, Governor. And, obviously the emergency rental assistance plan has been challenging because everybody's had to pretty much start up a brand new program in an area that we didn't have before. So, the fact that that you've been so innovative and efficient, and I really want to stress this. I mean, it's funny, I don't always associate robocalls in a positive way. But I think we all know that the individual applications that go, look, we think there'll be 3.5 to 4 million people who will get the emergency rental assistance, but we know that individual application process has been tough. We've been trying to simplify it, but, to come up with a way to, work together with the utilities so that you can have this mass bulk payment and for them to use robocalls as a way for people to sign on and agree. I mean, I really think that, I think that really, as I said, we thought was one of the most efficient practices in terms of using ERA with utilities and really why we wanted you on this call. And I really really do appreciate you taking the time. And by the way, on your, what you started, you can imagine coordinating American Rescue Plan. We call it the last mile. You know, everybody has great ideas except for the last mile. And we just want to focus on the last mile, whether it's signing up for the child tax credit or making sure you're getting LIHEAP assistance or ERA. So I appreciate it. And we learn that every day. It just matters. It makes all the difference in the world about what I know you and President Biden care about the most, which is not just passing good policy, but making sure it gets into the hands of people. So we really appreciate you coming on and talking about, you know, this particularly innovative approach on using emergency rental assistance on utilities. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Right back at you, Gene. Take care, everybody.
Take care. So now I'm going to introduce Governor Walz. I guess if you wanted a state that was kind of naturally associated with cold, you couldn't do too much better than Minnesota. Now the governor is traveling and you know, we really appreciate in that the benefits of Zoom that you were able to be with us. But again, we invited you because we really thought, again, when we were looking at examples of really excellent coordination between LIHEAP and ERA, working with utilities to inform customers, you know, data sharing. We really thought Minnesota was a strong example. And so we appreciate that even while you're traveling, you've made time to help talk to the people on this call. And so with that, Governor, let me turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sperling, and thanks to the secretaries, to my fellow governors. I'm just proud of that work you're doing, and a special thank you to President Biden and the administration. I can't stress, this truly is life and death in many of these decisions, and you're right. We embrace the weather in Minnesota, but 40 degrees below zero kills people. And the idea of a house, even if you keep someone in their house, if you can't heat it, doesn't get there. The average Minnesotan pays about 2% of their annual income on heating their home. Many people pay above 30% though, those least able to do so. And so this assistance, I just can't tell you, and we're very clear about this. The ability to heat your house and keep your children warm should not be dependent on your income. Everybody deserves to be warm. And with that being said, we know over the last 18 months the difficulties people have had, and the money that came out of the American Rescue Plan was absolutely critical. But we knew, in listening to the other governors, and I would associate myself with Governor Lamont, we have to do better than just waiting for people to come to us. This is hard for people. They're busy. They're worried about staying in their apartment. They're worried about their jobs. And because of that, we had to do more outreach. And some of the things we did, I would tell you, first and foremost, the results are we've had an increase of 85% in signups for the LIHEAP program in the last year. And Minnesotans are familiar with this program. They know it. It's critical. Since October 1st, over $32.5 million has been awarded in awards averaging $1,150. The Minnesota Department of Commerce is publishing this on an online dashboard weekly so we can track it. And in those funds since December and March of 2021, $500 million came to Minnesota. The need is overwhelming. 60,000 people have applied, and through November, our Rent Help Minnesota has made over 52,000 payments. We've received requests of 18 million in past due utility bills alone. So the need is there. Prices are going up. Life and death situations on keeping people warm. And so new strategies were coming up. And again, I would agree with Governor Lamont, trying to figure out how you can best partner with the people who do this. So I'm really proud. Since May, our energy assistance program has been meeting weekly with our utilities, and now our rent assistance is meeting weekly with them. By closely partnering with those utilities, we've come up with new strategies. We do joint media campaigns to get the word out. Our utilities are taking upon themselves to mail out or to call their customers on past due. Our Department of Commerce created a ready-to-go toolkit for utilities and community organizations, church leaders, nonprofits, folks who are out there helping, so that they could easily publicize this, get it across the state. And we made sure that it was available in multiple languages. We're co-promoting, of course, as you're here, all of us are doing, I think, energy assistance and emergency rental assistance. And we're using social media, electronic newsletters, anything we can do. We're targeting using the data we had and data sharing to communities where the potential and the demographics support that, of making sure that we're targeting digital ads directly in there on a constant basis. We're getting about 200 or 300 responses to those daily that we don't believe we would get in any other way. So the data sharing to put these efforts in with local media, in with paid advertising, and in with mails, working with the very utilities to making sure we don't miss anyone. And then I would say how important this is. Minnesota, like the northern states, have shutoff protections. We've extended those shutoff protections, the dates of those. We've also extended those shutoff protections to water. And one of the things we've done through data sharing is to make sure that no one falls through the cracks between Rent Help, LIHEAP, and our utility providers, that we are constantly cross-checking between them to make sure that anyone is there. So for example, if those utilities know someone is coming, they're already looped into this, they contact us, the applications are being processed. And what that means is the chance of someone getting a shut off on a February day is reduced to nearly zero. And that data sharing, the best practices, keeping people in their homes. And I think it's important for all of us as we're trying to reduce our fossil fuel needs. We understand that prices go up for many, many reasons. The one thing I think we should keep in mind is both the humanity of keeping people warm, but families can then get their children off to school where they can learn and they can go to work. And so in the long run, this smart way of doing things keeps us there. And I can just tell you, Mr. Sperling, and I think all the governors and folks who work in this space would know, without the American Rescue Plan, we would be in a crisis situation right now. It's going to be a challenging winter as it is, but this has been critical. So we're grateful for that. We continue to appreciate the flexibility that you provide us. I know that Secretary Granholm talked about weatherization programs. I think that's a really important piece on this to save us all money if there's some flexibility around what we can do with weatherization. And again, I would compliment the work with our tribal nations, our sovereign nations has been critical too. So thank you for the work. Know that it's making a difference. Know that it is saving lives. And we're going to come out of this better on the other end in terms of the best practices on how to deliver. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor. Thank you for, at the end, mentioning the importance of the working with tribal government, the real innovation in the data sharing. And I think you've really hit an important point that complements something we were just talking about. The notion of doing automatic benefits is that Governor Mills was doing is to get to people who have been LIHEAP recipients in previous years. With this additional money, we also, as you say, you're now expanding your population. And so now, the benefit of that is that you can now reach people who maybe weren't reached in the last few years because there wasn't enough funds. But then the challenge of making sure they understand they're eligible, all the things that you're doing and doing together and getting the information out. I mean, I think that is just terrific. And I think it's, I don't think this kind of doubling of assistance can really work without that kind of, going to the mat outreach efforts that you're talking about. So I think that's, again, a really important best practice, I think, for everybody, and really, really appreciate in the midst of your travel, you taking the time to talk with us and being so detailed and specific. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Governor. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Laniqua Howard. I think she's already been talked about a bit. I guess I said that it was the ultimate responsibility of Secretary Becerra for the $7.8 billion. Well, if you want to know who's got the line responsibility, it is the person who is the director of the Office of Community Services. I'll just say, as a personal note, that I think one of the joys that I have in a full-time implementation job, which can be difficult, is that, boy, you really get to work in a way that you don't, even when you're National Economic Council director, with the people who are making it happen, who are making sure the funds get there. And you really run into some superstars along the way. And I tell you, it is my opinion, and not just mine, that Laniqua Howard is one of those superstars. So a superstar and a rising star in this administration. So really glad that you're here. I think a lot of the best practices, things that are in the fact sheet, it's a White House fact sheet, but you can see that her fingerprints are all over many of the recommendations. And she's also been a very good partner as we've tried to make sure that HHS and Treasury were working together, that we're coordinating, and then helping other people coordinate on getting both programs out. So Dr. Howard, we're going to hear from some utilities, but you'll be the last administration official to speak. And I wouldn't be surprised, the most expert administration official to speak. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jean, for that warm introduction. I want to begin by thanking all of the LIHEAP and ERA directors for attending today and for the incredible work you do each day to ensure that households across the country have the assistance they need to stay safe and healthy in their homes. To the governors, thank you for your ongoing support of these critical programs. And to our colleagues at Treasury and the White House, thank you for your ongoing partnership and commitment to ensuring that LIHEAP and ERA are coordinated effectively and efficiently. And of course, thank you to Secretary Becerra and Secretary Granholm for your ongoing leadership in this area. It is my absolute pleasure to serve as the Director of the Office of Community Services, where our mission is to address the causes and consequences of poverty, increase self-sufficiency of individuals and families, and revitalize communities. Ensuring that households are able to meet their energy needs is a critically important piece of our work. And as we've heard today, this work is even more important this winter with the historic level of resources available through the American Rescue Plan to combat energy and housing insecurity. We know that coordinating and braiding funding between ERA and LIHEAP is a very powerful strategy to ensure that we meet the energy needs of households this winter. That is why today, with the support of the Treasury and the White House, HHS released guidance to LIHEAP grant recipients to support them in implementing American Rescue Plan funds and to encourage them to adopt best practices for coordinating available federal resources and working with utility companies to ensure that those who are most in need have access to these critical resources. Treasury has also updated its website for the ERA program today with additional information about promising practices for grantees. Many of the best practices included those that were highlighted already today, but there are also 3 other overarching best practices that we are calling on grant recipients to engage in this winter. 1, let's raise awareness about energy assistance and conduct joint outreach to ensure households are aware of potential supports through both LIHEAP and ERA. 2, let's examine and ensure benefit levels across different programs are sufficient to meet the energy needs of households. Historic levels of funding give us an opportunity to reach more households with a greater benefit this year. And last but not least, we need to work across programs, including both LIHEAP and ERA, as well as with the utility companies and delivered fuel providers to ensure intake and eligibility determination systems are as transparent, accessible, efficient, and as well coordinated as possible. We want to ensure that households know where to turn to for help and that they can get that help quickly and seamlessly. In the coming months, our incredible LIHEAP team, the Treasury, and the White House will continue to partner on this issue and will provide our grant recipients with additional information about emerging promising practices, as well as an abundance of training and technical assistance opportunities to help support you and your work to address the comprehensive energy needs of households this winter. As Secretary Becerra said earlier, no family should have to choose between heat and food, and no one should have to choose between heat and medicine. So thank you again to all who attended today's convening for playing your part to ensure that no family has to make these difficult choices. Collectively, we can ensure families are able to remain safe and healthy in their homes this winter. And lastly, I also want to acknowledge the many in the utilities and delivered fuel industries that are answering our call to action and are committing to partnering with us to help families get assistance this winter. We are joined today by representatives from utility companies Eversource, National Grid, and Portland General Electric, as well as NEFI, a Delivered Fuels Trade Association. I would turn it over to Jessica Kane, Vice President of Consumer Operations at Eversource, who will speak on what the industry can do to help us this winter. Over to you, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Dr. Howard. I'd like to take a moment to thank our governors, and particularly my own in Connecticut, Governor Lamont, plus Secretary Becerra, Secretary Granholm, and others who shared their insights and support today. You can hear across the topics a hunger for best practices and an interest in sharing that will have benefits beyond this moment, which is fantastic. Families and individuals are struggling to pay their bills, and especially this winter. Many find themselves in this situation for the first time, and they might not know that there's help, let alone where to find it. Utilities and deferred fuel providers have an important role to play in connecting people to the assistance available to them. And we're joining together to meet the White House's call and proactively use our resources to help families in need. That's our people, our technology, our larger engines, and our enthusiasm and the innovation and the data sharing that I've heard so many times today. The last thing we want to do is turn off anyone's heat. So in the spirit of best practices, we've heard a few today, and we're ready to share a few more. We do know that with even the best marketing out there, we will never be as effective as we could in reaching customers without the data sharing. So I heard a few today as well with direct support in Michigan. In Massachusetts, we know the utilities have been receiving data from the state for nearly 2 decades. I heard some from Maine today, and our own state of Connecticut, Commissioner Sela Mosquera Bruno did a fantastic job from a technology and a legal perspective, tackling those barriers to keep it simple for customers. And that's the key. We have to keep it simple for customers, which means data sharing. And that goes back to what Mr. Sperling was saying earlier about that census tract data for customers who we know are renters and in areas that would qualify as financial hardship. Sharing that data is going to get us to new places and expedite assistance to our most vulnerable customers. We're building on those partnerships with state agencies and housing administrators, and we're working to share what's worked best so that we can all do more of it together to help more. I echo the thanks for the American Rescue and Recovery Act. More energy, there is more energy assistance available now than ever before. We urge others to join us in our commitment to helping identify households eligible to receive that assistance and get it to them as quickly as possible. Thank you to this group for pulling us in today, and I will hand the baton back to Jean.
Jessica, thank you so much. As you saw, your partnership was heavily highlighted, but I also want to thank Helen Burt with National Grid and Lori St. Aubin with Northwestern Energy, and Sean Cota with Nephi for being here as part of this. We thank you. Thank you for being part of this commitment and challenge and rising to the occasion. I'll leave with the following, which is it is always about the last mile. It's not even Thanksgiving yet. We know that we're trying to, for ourselves and for everyone else, encourage them, as we said, to plan early, to look at best practices, to be innovative, to expedite when possible, to get the best data, to have the strongest outreach. But this is a process, and we want to stay in touch. Many of you are connected with Laniqua Howard. I hope many of you are also connected with the White House Intergovernmental Affairs, our real superstar person for the American Rescue Plan, Luke McGowan. And I say this not to just mention names, but to say we want to hear from you. I mean, we are only able to implement by understanding what is happening on the ground. Are there issues? Are there challenges? Is there something where there's a lack of clarity in one of the programs? I thought it was excellent that Jacob Liebenluft could be on today to provide some clarity on the emergency rental assistance. But we are ready to work. We we are used to the idea that there are bumps in the road when you're trying to do a lot and new things and help people. And we want to do what we can to smooth them and work with you. So please, please bother us early and often. I mean that, because this is the only way we can understand when there are challenges in the implementation. And again, it's not even Thanksgiving. We know winter is just starting, and the issue of heating costs is just starting for people. And so this is, when we say we want this to be an ongoing dialogue, that's not just a catchphrase. We're dependent on it. We're dependent on it to know what the issues are and what we need to do as quickly as possible. So I really, really can't thank enough that Secretary Becerra and Secretary Granholm, with everything they understand this is as urgent and important as an issue for families, and made the time and have devoted their teams, and Jacob Liebenluft and Laniqua Howard. Really, really thank the fact that we had 4 governors we wanted to ask to present best practices, and we figured maybe a couple would be able to find the time. The fact that all 4 said yes, Governor Whitmer, Governor Mills, Governor Waltz, Governor Lamont, really terrific, and just really was impressed by the degree that they had their heads into the specifics. They had worked hard on these issues and really laid out, I think, the kind of best practices and state experience that is, we hope, helpful to those understanding this issue, but mostly to those of you who are looking for the best ways to implement these unprecedented resources. So with that, I will let everybody get back to work. Thank you so much. And again, bother us early and often because we're counting on it. So thank you very much.